Millions of Greeks then have voted in this crucial referendum that may determine whether or not the nation stays in the Eurozone. And it looks, as we've been saying, like the noes have it. We'll be able to confirm that very, very soon. So will shockwaves be felt here in New Zealand? Prime Minister John Key joins me now. John, good morning to you.
Morning, Paul.
Our 74th biggest trading partner. I mean, it's not do or die this for us, is it?
No. I mean, for us, it's not the trade issue, it's just the international sentiment. So you saw the dairy auction last week just being a bit lower than we would have thought, and I suspect part of that was just the sort of sentiment of Greece. So, as Tony said, you really just don't know what happens next, but my guess is 3 years ago, much more significant, because they're not worried, so bluntly, so much about Greece. They're worried about Italy, Spain and France. They're the big economies.
And what are people referring to it as? Bill English was referring to it as contagion.
Yes, contagion, as opposed to the domino effect. Well, that's what they worry about. They worry about, they say, Greece falls over and then the next one. And that's what you saw. Remember when Lehman Brothers fell over in the US? They were at the point they said, let Lehman's go, no big deal. They let them fall over, and that led to all of the others.
But as you're saying, the world is in a very different situation now than it was a few years ago.
Yeah, and I don't think the others would fall over now. I think what would happen is if Greece was forced out, then the only thing they'll be able to do is print money. They literally have to print money to pay their...
But at least then they will be their own cot case, whereas now they are Europe's cot case.
Yeah.
What if you were the Prime Minister of Greece?
Yeah.
What would you do? Because obviously they just want to get a better bargaining power with the EU at the moment. That's the strategy at the moment. What would you do?
Well, maybe you'd have to do what he's done, argue I've got a mandate from the people. But look, in the end, I mean, the real truth is you don't let yourself get there. I'm not being funny about it.
But it's too late to do that now, though, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. There is an argument that if they go out there and they're on their own, they print money, obviously it's a fraction of what it is today. Their exports recover. Certainly people go back.
People flood in from a tourism point of view. Tourism bounds. And also the other thing is, of course, they don't have to pay their debts. I mean, they just hang over them for the rest of everyone's lives.
Yeah, and I find it hard to believe they're going to pay their debts. I mean, let's be honest. Every bank that's owed money by Greece will have written it off.
Yeah.
They
are
$500 billion.
Ever going to pay their debts? Yeah. Their economy will never, no matter how brilliantly they manage it from now on, and there's no indication they will, they'll never be able to pay that money back. All right, but is your prediction that Europe, that Merkel and the others will do whatever they can to keep them in the EU?
Initially, I mean, I think you've got to understand with Europe, because I've met with lots of European leaders over the years. They talk a bit about this as the European project. This isn't about economics. It's really about the politics of keeping Europe unified. And so that runs immensely deep through their veins. And they'll do what they can. On the other side of the coin, though, there are rules which govern each of these countries. And once you start breaking those rules, you spend too much, you don't tax your citizens, all of these sort of things, then eventually you actually challenge the stability of all of these countries. The other problem she's got is that it's really the German taxpayers that see themselves as paying the bill, and the Germans are sick of it. They're sick of basically bailing out Greece. They say, well, we're working 50 hours a week. We've reformed our economy, all for these people not to actually do something. I mean, I didn't actually see it, but someone said to me there was an interview apparently with the Greek Minister of Finance, and they asked him, it was in the UK, they said, do you know how many people in the UK pay tax on £1 million of earnings or more a year? He said, no idea. Apparently the guy says 260,000. Do you know what the number was in Greece?
Well,
7.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a problem.
It's a court case. It's a court
paying
case.
tax is not a hobby. You don't get
well,
to
it is in Greece. It's a hobby in Greece.
To pay your tax.
And this is the interesting thing. You've got the Prime Minister there using the word dignity, basically saying, if you don't vote no, we lose our dignity. Greece, they lost their dignity years and years ago. They're being propped up by others. All right, we need to move on. Let's move to our economy. Terrible dairy auction last week. I mean, it was worse than people had predicted. And you've got some commentators now saying these prices could be low for the next 5 years. It's only a section of our economy, but of the rural economy in New Zealand, it's a very large chunk. Are you worried about rural New Zealand?
Well, I obviously have concerns about dairy farmers because they're going to earn less. But I think
the wider community, those small towns in New Zealand.
Some impact, yes, but I think it's worth putting a bit of perspective around it. For a start off, it's 5% of the overall economy, 22% of our exports. So it's quite a significant export.
But I know, just for the sake of time, I know those figures, but it's a much bigger percentage of those rural economies, those small towns that are struggling anyway.
So it is spending in those small, I agree. What happens is they're going to spend, dairy farmers will spend less money in their local communities. Having said all that, when the payout's really high, they basically pay a bit of debt off with the farm. When the payout is really low, many of them will be borrowing. So they have a very fluid overdraft system there. the one thing to look at is dairy land prices. They
Which
are
is still
not
strong.
moving.
No, that's right. Are you surprised?
Well, economics-wise, yes, it's irrational.
Yeah.
But the point is that shows you that while some people say, 5 years, they'll never recover, they were the same people probably a year ago when it was $8.40 as a payout, saying, it's going to the moon.
Sure.
The
But
market
will your government
react.
be watching those small rural communities very closely to make sure they don't suffer too much?
Yes.
Will you be watching them?
But the really big factor there is where that would become much more serious is if dairy farmers got tipped off their land. And
Absolutely.
There's no sign of that. See, I think what's going to happen...
Banks don't want to run dairy farms, do they?
No, but they also don't want to tip them over because you got to remember they have a hell of a lot of exposure to this sector. I think it's 50 billion, might be more, I don't know, lots. And the point is they don't want to make it worse, talking about the contagion effect. But the other issue is they are taking a longer term view. Their balance sheets are really strong, the banks in New Zealand. So they came to...
So they can afford to take a longer
they can
term
afford to
view.
take the risk. They can afford to say, look, we'll put you on interest only for a while or we won't make you pay payments or lend you a bit
And they've
more
done
money.
it before, to
They've
be
done
fair.
it before.
All right, let's just go through a few rapid-fire questions. Today you've got a foreign investment announcement. Well, Stephen Joyce is presenting something to Cabinet today. Obviously, we want to get more of this foreign investment. That's a big focus of yours, and you want to have some of that targeted straight into the rural sector or into provincial New Zealand.
Yeah, it's regional development, economic development. It's just really saying, how do we coordinate our activities to say...
And does Stephen know how to do it?
Yep, he does.
He does, that's good. All right,
that's good.
leave it there.
Well, he used to run a radio station, so if you can do that, sure you can do anything.
I don't know. I don't know.
He must have been your first boss. Every single person I met there was his first boss.
No, because what happened
apparently.
is I was working for an outfit.
Oh, right.
He took it over and fired me.
Did he? Oh, well, see, he's
What
a
a
man
bastard.
with a man with great foresight.
What a bastard. All right, when do
Don't
you
worry,
go to
it's worked
Samoa?
out pretty well by the looks of things.
Oh, yeah, it has.
Yeah,
it has.
It's good.
When do you go to Samoa?
Wheels up at 5:30 in the morning on Wednesday, back at midnight.
Oh, I love that term, wheels up.
Wheels up.
Wheels up.
Well, we've got our own
Chocks
plane.
away.
Chocks
Chocks
away.
away.
Yep. It'll be an Air Force breakfast.
Which morning?
Wednesday morning. We're going on the
Because
day.
Jim tried to go yesterday.
I know, but you see, Jim's just...
He's no Prime
He's just
Minister.
pulled the wool over Media Works'
course he
eyes.
has, of course
He's
he
there
has.
sunning himself.
Yeah, rolling
He's
out
having
cables.
a lovely old time.
All right, John, thank
Oh,
you very
bless
much.
him.
I was very
Okay.
sorry that you weren't named either as a godparent. That would have been great for us if you'd
would have
been
been
named
nice.
as one of Charlotte's.
To be
Did
honest.
they ring or not?
Well, to be honest, I sat there waiting, as I so often did. But there was no phone call. No phone call.
Brilliant. Have a good week.
Oh, I
All
will.
right.
You have a lovely time
Take
too.
care.
Bye-bye.
I will do. Try.